Hello, good evening. Welcome. This is Hot Edition. We're live on news. I'll be at Desawe Kanda. Also live on Kesmi 107.1 in Tamale and beyond. We're live on W93.5 in Wa and beyond. Coming up this evening here on Hot Edition. And Office of Special Prosecutor closes a probe against former Minister of State at the Finance Ministry, Charles Eduboahin, after nearly 1 year of investigation for corruption and its related activities failed to prove allegations in analysis. Galamsey expose. Stay with us. We'll give you the latest on that. Also, calls intensify for a probe into brutalities meted out by soldiers to residents of Garu and Bugri in the Upper East region. We'll hear from a member of the Defense and Interior Committee of Parliament on this disturbing development here on her edition on 3FM 92.7 plus. A Ghana Federation of Labour is calling for a comprehensive review of what it described as a nuisance tax burden ahead of the 2024 budget presentation. We have the latest in business, sports and entertainment coming up over the next 60 minutes here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. Let's get into the details now. And as we're learning, the former Minister of State at the Finance Ministry, Charles Eduboahin, is no longer a subject of investigation over corruption and its related activities in the Galamsey Economy Expose by Anas Arimia Anas. The President, Nana Dankwa Akufo-Addo, in November 2022, petitioned the special prosecutor to investigate Charles Eduboahin after he was captured in the documentary allegedly peddling influence for personal gain. After nearly a year of investigations, the special prosecutor says although the minister engaged in influence peddling, which is associated with corruption, there's no actual criminal prohibition of his acts to warrant an action by the special prosecutor. If you recall, Anas Armiana's investigation to the alleged influence peddling by the Minister of State at the Finance Ministry, Charles Eduboahin, led to his removal from office a year ago. According to the Tagaya IPI investigations, Charles Eduboahin told undercover journalists that Vice President Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia could be paid $200,000 as an appearance fee for investors, a claim the Vice President vehemently denied. The President relieved Charles Eduboahin of his duties and subsequently referred him to the Special Prosecutor for investigations. I want us to take a listen to excerpts of that undercover investigation by Anas Arimia Anas, which led to this directive by the President to the Special Prosecutor to investigate this issue. Take a listen.
I was just saying that I have to introduce you to the Vice President. Vice President is a very good man. He used to be the Deputy Governor of the Bank of Ghana. So if I tell him he was to come open and so he'll be very happy. And he's a good guy, so I'm very close to him, good relationship to have. So I was even thinking about that already, to see him we can arrange. In fact, he was supposed to be coming to go with us to Singapore, but he couldn't make it here. So we have to arrange, but I think it's important like somebody that we bring in to understand, and if you can support him. In 2020, we're going into an election year, and we need to have a lot of resources at our disposal, and so if we can start doing the relationship, he has your support, because he's a politician. Me, I'm not a big politician. I don't do politics like this. In 2020, we're going into an election year, and we need to have a lot of resources at our disposal, and so if we can start doing the relationship, he has your support, because he's a politician. Me, I'm not a big politician. I don't do politics like this.
Let's step a bit further on this. So that's what Charles Eduboahing there in that documentary by Anas Ermia Anas capturing him engaging in influence peddling. Adam Sano is the co-chair of the Citizens Movement Against Corruption. Masano, thank you so much for joining us here on Hot Edition. So, essentially, what this conclusion means of the special prosecutor is that there's no case against Charles Eduboahing. How does that come to you as anti-corruption crusaders?
Well, I think that the report needs to be looked at a lot more closely. I don't think that what is being reported actually reflects. I've heard some people say he's been cleared. No. There are two sections that are critical. In section 615, there's a statement there that all the indices point to the fact that the principal motivation for Mr. Eduboahing was personal gain. Now, that traditionally we define as the abuse of entrusted power for personal gain is corruption. Then in section 7.5, they make the point very strongly that we need to pass the Corrupt Practices Act and also pass the COPO, which is the Conduct of Public Officers Act, in order to be able to deal with this substantively. What it is that the OSP is pointing out a deficit, a deficiency in our current legal framework, for which reason they are unable to establish what he has done as a crime. It is not to suggest that he has been cleared. It is to say that we have a deficiency because our laws do not reflect fully the UNCAC, nor do they capture the Public Officers Code of Conduct in a way that this, which in other jurisdictions would clearly have been seen a breach of the law and therefore criminal, would then have been picked up. And that's the point.
See, but I'm sure it should concern you at this point. In our laws as a country, we don't have any law that punishes influence peddling. I mean, all the while.
Absolutely. Alfred, you just nailed it. Absolutely. I mean, and it is why when the Sisleadapa issue came up, you found many civil society organizations writing, appealing to the president that make sure you push the Conduct of Public Officers Bill. And outside that, we've been clearing our mind that corrupt practices, there are gaps. You know, the illicit financial enrichment or lifestyle issues, all of these things need to be codified. And we cannot be serious about anti-corruption or good governance when we don't have a legal framework that deals with it. So essentially, yes, the OSP spent the time, has done quite a thorough job. Mind you, my mind has been averted to the fact that this Ahmed and he was murdered. So as I read, dollars that was put there, then the 200,000, 10%. For a conclusive case, the aspect of the individual having picked up that 10%, you know, would then have made this a much more conclusive case for them to deal with. So if you go through the facts, there's a sense in which the investigation by Tiger Eye was not complete, and that also was a deficiency. But critically, our legal framework has a very gaping gap that we need to deal with if we are going to move forward on issues such as this.
You see, and to this, so far, have you seen any sense of urgency or commitment on the part of government to pass this Conduct of Public Officers Bill into law?
No, not at all. Because with all the appeals that have been made,
in progress.
With all the appeals that have been made, I mean, by this point, ordinarily, we should have seen, I mean, the work that has been done on the draft bill, most people will tell you that that bill is in a good state to go before Parliament. But there seems to be an inertia, obviously, lack of political will to move that bill the next stage. And beyond that, it's also the General Corrupt Practices Act, which we need to pass. Without that, we are not in full alignment with the UNCAC, nor are we in full alignment with the AUCPCC, which is a convention against the prevention and mitigation of corruption. So we have gaps, and that is reflecting in the current report.
And now the other thing as well, which was quite evident in the OSP's conclusions or recommendations on this matter, is some level of inconclusiveness on the part of Anas's investigation, for that matter. Now, for you and where you sit, how would this in any way help in the fight against corruption in this country, especially because this is not the only influence peddling case that has come to the fore, that for you, the anti-corruption crusaders have had, cause to also question. So how is this going to help in the fight against corruption?
I mean, first of all, the OSP goes to makes a lot of effort to underscore the fact that they believe that investigative journalism and the sting operations that they conduct are legitimate ways of obtaining information that can be used. And so they have the examples of Kofi Mensah, Kweku, and Kwame Simpson also, which I found very interesting. And then they draw the conclusion that unlike opponents to the idea of investigative journalism, which some people want to call terrorism, they don't subscribe to that. They think it's an important part of the machinery in dealing with anti-corruption. I think that's very important. It sets the tone and context that we embrace investigative journalism, and we think that their efforts can contribute to this fight. Beyond that, I think that the angle of how, in this particular instance, Tiger Eye was not able to complete conclusively its investigation is something that media and all of us should wrap our minds around. Because honestly, were it not for, and mind you, that leakage ended up in a very tragic situation that we have not yet resolved. The killers of Ahmed Swale are still out there. And our information suggests that there were many more ministers and people who were being investigated, for which reason this was a very dangerous move. In that context, how do we protect investigative journalism? How do we ensure that they are able to conclude their efforts, and therefore what they provide for state institutions such as the OSP is conclusive enough to help them, aid all of us, as it were, get rid of persons who with impunity want to rob the public purse? These are issues that must seize our minds and that we must continue to speak to and see how we can address going forward.
So you would agree with those who say the OSP just set on a path to waste all of us time with this almost a year investigation and come out with this conclusion?
I absolutely disagree. Remember that first it was referred by the presidency, and then there was a formal complaint by Tiger Eye itself. And until you've gone through all the evidence, you are not able to tell whether you have a conclusive fact or not. They needed to go through the rushes. They needed to interrogate people to be able to draw a conclusion that they have something that they can use. Unfortunately, because the piece itself was not conclusive, and I'm sure Tiger Eye itself would admit that, that you needed to have had a transaction where the money was now picked up, lodged. I mean, outside the money that was it for local shopping, I've forgotten how it was described. There's really no conclusive piece of evidence. And until they had gone into it, there was no way to decide that this would not result in something that could be picked up and taken to court. So I don't think it was a waste of time. I think that it gives us clarity on what transpired. It also tells us that we need to be careful how we deal with investigative journalists and their pieces. They need to be encouraged more. It also tells us that our legal framework has a gaping issue that if we don't address urgently, we will continue to face these issues going forward.
Ezano, appreciate your time. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Alfred.
Adam Sano is a co-chair of the Citizens Movement Against Corruption. Amongst other things, the Special Prosecutor's report on this Chartered Warring investigations does indicate 5.20 indicates that, quote, globally, the trend is significantly shifting towards the acceptance of unconventional techniques of detecting and fighting crime, including the embracement of sting operations. In the context of combating corruption, Article 50 of the United Nations Convention Against Corruption encourages state parties to permit surveillance and undercover operations and to allow for the admissibility in court of evidence derived therefrom within the limits of their domestic laws. To that admonition must we pay fidelity. So Tiger IPI is a private investigation outfit incorporated in Ghana with a keen interest in the investigation of corruption cases of public interest. The agency received several reports and complaints and reports from members of the public about suspected corrupt practices at the Ministry of Finance, especially in respect of allegations upfront bribe taking and the demand by some officials of the ministry for unlawful payment of money from persons who had business with the ministry. Tiger IPI commenced investigations in 2017 in respect of Charles Eduboahin, who was the then Deputy Minister of Finance. The investigation was aimed at ascertaining whether Charles Eduboahin was engaged in the stated corruption and corruption-related offenses. Operatives of Tiger IPI conducted an undercover investigation over the course of 12 months by disguising themselves as sheikhs, interpreters of the Arabic language for sheikhs, and as officials of the Al Baraka Banking Group, a public investment business firm headquartered in Manama in the Kingdom of Bahrain. Now, the investigation was quite elaborate and carefully planned and executed, covering several meetings in Ghana and the United Arab Emirates, and the purchase of round air tickets for two persons, excluding Charles Eduboahin, on 2 occasions between Accra and Dubai. So this is how this investigation played out, and it gives the special prosecutor's document gives some copious detail of how things played out that led to Charles Eduboahin being caught in this particular web. Now, as we did see in that documentary, what's happening now is that because of the deficiency in our law in dealing with influence peddling, the special prosecutor is pointing to that as his inability to make any conclusive recommendations for prosecution of Charles Eduboahin. So that's where we are. And that's what the anti-corruption crusaders in this country are not happy about, that up until now, as a country, we don't have a law that specifically criminalizes influence peddling. And that's the next stage of the issues to deal with. But while we are at it, there are growing calls for a probe into the brutalities meted out by some military personnel to residents of Garu and Bugri in the Upper East region. It followed a military operation in the area last Saturday, during which residents of the two communities were brutalized in what appears to be a reprisal attack over an earlier incident involving alleged national security operatives. Since the incident, some residents, especially young men of the area, are yet to return to the communities after fleeing to safety. 9 persons are currently in the custody of the Ghana Police Service following the operation, which left more than 50 persons injured. According to the National Security Ministry, the military action was to seize weapons by residents used to perpetrate an attack on its personnel. However, security analyst Richard Komado says the brutalities were unwarranted.
Operation that has gone wrong. This is a security operation that intelligence was not applied, and we just mobilize ourselves and get into the community and bastardize everybody. And if they had taken their time a little bit, they would have identified those guys who attacked them, even if that is true, and they would have picked them up and retrieved a weapon. And that whole story about people shoot at them, I think it's becoming one of too many, and people are beginning to doubt their stories. Yes.
Should we be expecting a bit more from the national security in terms of an explanation, considering the injuries that we've seen to residents during this operation?
I have been one of the persons in this country who have advocated that we consider the peculiar nature of the work national security does. It is not appropriate for national security to have field operation officers, considering the men they created at Ayawaso, where we are gone, Ezra and Ikraza and many of those places. Now we have a counter-terrorism unit at Boko because of the chieftaincy issue there. Every week we spend about $1.2 million of Ghana cedis on that issue. Then you also have counter-terrorism military officers there. It means the place is well called off and it is well managed in terms of security. Ask yourself, what after all this particular group of national security got into the community to do?
Already, MPs from the Upper East region have called for an independent investigation into the incident. Shortly, we'll be joined by Peter Lanchani Tobos, Member of Parliament for the Wawes constituency, a former police chief himself. He understands how these sorts of security operations play out. He's joining us on the telephone. Honorable Peter Lanchani Tobo, good evening. Thank you so much for joining us here on Hot Edition. First off, you have called for a probe into this particular incident, despite what the National Security Ministry is saying that their men were attacked?
Thank you very much, Alfred, and good evening to various listeners. What happened in Garu cannot be anything that will encourage anybody in uniform. It cannot be anything that will encourage anybody within the security sector. The security sector is well structured. National security is so central to the success of security in this country as much as they play that lead role of coordination. National security is not an operational agency. Let's get it right. If national security veers into operation, they mess up the whole structure. When national security does pretend over the intelligence of this country, analyzes information and arrives at an intelligent position and decides that this is an action that is requiring the police to step in. This is a situation that requires the armed forces to step in. This is a situation that requires the Ghana Immigration Service to step in. At that material moment, national security is deemed to be playing that revolving role. But if you have men and women who say they are national security personnel taking up operational roles to the point that they even get into a system and they are attacked, I was surprised that even if you decide to deploy them in such a volatile area within the Boko and its environment, there should be a backup plan. If there is no buddy system, as we call it, there should be a backup plan for men and women in uniform, whether police or military, to understand that these people are going in here to gather intelligence, but in case of anything, please, your response period should not be less than 10-15 minutes. But for them to go and be attacked, and you go and sit down and plan and go back to say you are going to retrieve arms. I don't know how many arms they got out of that. But the moment you round up people, they become vulnerable. And international humanitarian law will even prevent you from torturing them. They can be criminals. They can even be murderers. But the moment they are rounded up and they become vulnerable, you infringe on the dignity and the right of the people when you begin to torture them. Because the law has gotten up with them. And if they can be proven to be guilty, we'll deal with them according to the law. What happened in Garu, I think that is perfect. And we are damaging the hard-won image of the Ghana Armed Forces, for God's sake. How on earth can the Ghana Armed Forces go on an operation and it is the National Security Minister that is a statement to explain why they were there? Excuse me, it's not good enough. Let's allow the army to be professional. And anytime the army is out there, even if they err, they are bold enough to come and say, this one, we didn't get it right. And that is how we build our democracy. When we create enmity between the people and the army, when disaster befalls us, how do we trust the army to defend us? When we want to confide in our army because we trust them, how do we have the courage to go in there? This day and us, contrast that is being created. And the people begin to fear the soldiers and do not trust them and think that they are just in there to brutalize people. It's not a good image that we are building for the Ghana Armed Forces.
So some have described this as more of a retaliation by the soldiers because of an earlier incident. From your own analysis, from the security perspective, how things played out and how these residents there were brutalized in this whole operation, what do you also give credence to that suspicion that this was more of just a retaliation of what had happened earlier?
I wouldn't take that position. I am going to say that because the National Security Ministry responded on an operational matter involving the army they were probably misled. They were probably misled by the National Security. If they are not misled, they have the capacity to go in an operation. Because if National Security personnel get into a situation and they were malhandled, and the soldiers think that we need to go in there on an operation to ensure that that place remains safe for other people to live in, the soldiers will determine the operational strategy. They will go in there and come out and report to the Ghanaian people. They don't need the National Security Minister to report what they do. You have gone in there and you had a problem, and we are going in there to see if we can prevent it from happening again. Why are you reporting for us as if you are the one who the commander is in chief of the Ghana Armed Forces? You are not. The soldiers were simply misled. And I think that it is becoming one too many.
So we've seen over time the soldiers always make reference to an intelligence-led operation, but you are an experienced security person. What would you classify as intelligence as against information? Because there are two different things, you know.
When we talk about intelligence-led operations, we have zeroed into the core, reduce damages and excesses. And that is what we call intelligence-led. There is something that is happening. You've gathered information, you've analyzed, and you decided that you are going to strike at the bull. You are not going to go wayward. You are not going to do trial and error. You know the target. You are going to hit the target straight. And sometimes, even intelligence, if you are talking about shooting, one bullet can bring you the results. You carry a gun that has about 60 rounds of ammunition in it. But if it is intelligence-led, it's just one bullet that you release, and you get results, and the whole place is calm. So if you go on intelligence-led operation, and people are brutalized, you've gone to retrieve arms, and probably you end up by not retrieving a single arm. For instance, in the Sherman case, you've gone to ensure that you get criminals who are involved in the murder of one of your colleagues. You've got about 178 people, brutalize them. At the end of the day, not a single one of those persons was connected to the murder of my younger brother. Unfortunately, may his soul rest in peace. That is recklessness. And we shouldn't continue that way. When you do that gradually, you may think that you are exerting pressure on the civil society or civilians to reason up. But the civilians are looking at you as very unprofessional. And gradually, it is your image that's going. Let's protect the image of the Ghana Armed Forces by being responsible civilians, be you politicians or any other person.
Would you support the call for the National Security Minister, as Kandapar, to ensure that the soldiers involved in the act are at least brought to book?
I will be surprised that the National Security Minister will be talking like that. Because if you mislead them and they go and act. Now, when you are bringing soldiers into a scene, this is not a military operation that they have said it and they are going. You have given the intel and they are going to operate on your intel. If your intel is wrong, you should be held responsible for misleading the soldiers and not telling the soldiers who probably have done some excesses. Military operations all over the world, you always understand that 10% damage, you have to appreciate it. These are not pastors, please. They are not police officers. These are soldiers. So when you get soldiers involved in matters of internal security, don't go talking about some level of excess. Excesses are bad. Yes, we agree. But what the police can do, if you ask the soldier to go and do it, expect that he will do and overdo and you get an excess. We should appreciate the structure of the national security system. It is well structured, rules are well defined by the Constitution, and if we blend them up, gradually these are the kind of things that come, and it's not good for our democratic image.
You're a member of the Interior and Defense Committee of Parliament. Parliament resumes tomorrow. Is this incident an issue that you would take interest in as a committee?
I am trusting that the members of Parliament in that area will definitely do something. And if they raise it on the floor of Parliament, all of us will contribute to the debate to ensure that at least this country remains peaceful and people will be in their lane. Whatever it is, the Constitution is very clear as the role of the army and the role of the police and the role of the Ghana Immigration Service and the role of even national security. Until that is done, I don't think that we need to be quiet. Let's speak out and correct our errors because we need to learn from what is wrong so that tomorrow we don't repeat it.
Peter Tobo, I thank you so much for your time.
Always my pleasure.
Peter Lanchani Tobo is a member of Parliament for the West constituency and a member of the Defense and Interior Committee of Parliament. Parliament resumes tomorrow. It's an issue that is indicated quite strongly that the committee will take interest in, and it's something that will stay the steam on as well tomorrow when Parliament resumes to indicate at least how far Parliament intends to also support the calls for some investigations into the matter. But the Defense Minister, Dominic Nito, has been talking, indicating that government would institute in some investigations into this particular incident to ensure that there's some all the persons involved in this matter are brought to book and also to ensure that investigations are also carried out into this matter. I want to hear from Dominic Nito now.
They are in fact members of the national security apparatus, and they were actually sent on official duty. There could have been there was some miscommunication somewhere along the line and mistrust. It's one of the things that we are trying to resolve because there's some bit of mistrust in the general Boko area. people try to assume things that may not be right, and maybe because they don't have the initial information may try to do things that may not be right. But we are concerned about that mistrust, and we're taking steps to address them. So we are taking steps to ensure that Baku becomes very peaceful. We are taking steps to address the issue of general mistrust, and we are taking steps to ensure that not just Baku but the entire northern zone is relatively peaceful and safe. If there are people who are not members of security agencies, we will let you know.
That's Dominic Nito, the defense minister there. And from the Garo area, we understand there's some uneasy calm at Nkwanta in the Nkwanta South municipality of the Oti region after violent clashes ensued between two tribal communities, reportedly left one fatality and others, a number of people injured. The violence erupted between the Adeles and the Achodes during the annual Yam Festival celebrated by the Achode community. 7 suspects are currently in police custody, insisting that they were indeed right in what they did. So the police have arrested them and indicated that they are going to be assisting with investigations. Municipal Chief Executive for Nkwanta South, Bright Lengwa, tells 3FM the conflict is connected to a land dispute, which they, together with the police, are currently investigating.
It arose as a result of disagreements initially over the celebration of Yam Festival by the people of Achode, which was being opposed by 2 other groups, the Adeles and the Chalas. So that is basically the issue is over a piece of land in Nkwanta, and so for that matter, a land dispute, which has led to this.
A land dispute leading to this. What's the current situation in the town now? Is it the case that calm has been restored and restored fully?
Well, I can say as we speak, calm is gradually returning. I can't say it's being completely returned. No. There are still rumors hovering around, and as a result, big fear, big panic in people. So, yes, with the intervention of specialized police units from across the OT and Volta region, and also the presence of some military personnel, I can say calm is gradually returning.
But we have picked intelligence as well that, yes, you mentioned it was about the celebration, and you've mentioned land. There are a lot of people who are making the argument that it leans a lot more towards disagreement over the festival and which faction should have been organizing it. What does the intelligence say?
Well, for now, what I'm privy to, and which has come to my notice, and which we've even spoken to the parties involved, is basically about the ownership of lands in Nkwanta town. That is the basic argument or dispute or litigation for which the parties are involved. So the parties are basically litigating over other lands or portions of them thereof, and that's basically the issue.
Right.
So you had there the DC for the area that's speaking to the concerns that have been raised so far about what is happening in the Nkwanta South municipality. Now, the Ghana Federation of Labour has called for a comprehensive review of what it described as nuisance taxes in the country. In a statement earlier issued today ahead of the 2024 budget presentation, the Federation said a review would help prioritize job creation and should be considered as an urgent necessity. These burdensome taxes have hindered economic growth, stifling business development, and place an unfair burden on hard-working Ghanaians and effective operation of industries. It is imperative that the government takes immediate action to alleviate these challenges and foster a more conducive environment for businesses and workers. That's according to the Ghana Federation of Labour. And we have Abraham Kumsing, who's the General Secretary of the Ghana Federation of Labour, joining us on the telephone. Mr. Kumsing, what are these specific nuisance taxes that you want the 2024 budget to address?
Thank you for the opportunity. You see, we have raised issues about the numerous taxes that have, burdened the manufacturing sector, and we have about 17 of them. I think I, called out this import duty, 5%, import VAT, processing fee, ECOWAS levy, network charge, network VAT, COVID-19. About 17 of these taxes are being paid already by local manufacturers. Then, early this year, they introduced another excise duty, I think 3 of them, on beverage manufacturing. And honestly, these taxes are, destroying the local industry. Why the union is worried is that our members are losing their jobs because the companies cannot sell their product because of the high prices that they are quoting, just to also be able to, break even and stay in business. And customers are not buying. For instance, if Calipo, which used to sell at 1 CD, 20 pesos or so, is now selling close to 6 CDs. So how do you expect any parent to buy food and buy this drink for the child to go to school? So they have all stopped. And because of that, if you go to their warehouses, I've taken time to go around these beverage companies, not only the fruitery, but there are other beverages like, Coca-Cola and the other fizzy drinks, and they have piled up this product there. And so what happened? What it means is that the workers will be sent home. And as I speak, some of them have started going. You stay at home. When things improve, we may consider bringing you back to work. And it's affecting workers and the union as well. So we have raised issues. Look, when they were introducing these 3 new taxes, we petitioned Parliament. AGI also, Association of Ghana Industry, they also wrote about 14-page petition to Parliament that, look, why don't you engage the stakeholders, the critical stakeholders, so that we can, discuss these issues? Because if eventually you succeed to impose these taxes and the businesses collapse, how do you get the revenue that you want from these taxes to operate? So common sense will even tell them that, look, if you overload the industry, they will collapse, and you will not get the revenue that you have projected to get. So that's the problem that we have now. And I mean, 2024 is just around the corner, and the minister wrote to organized labor that we should come out with our input, which we have done, and raised concerns about these numerous taxes. But I can assure you that the minister will throw, because this is not the first time, they will not consider whatever we have put out there for them to. They will never. They will just throw it away. The formality. When the time comes, we will bring your input. We'll send it, and they'll work with it. That's why we started, making this noise, and we want to appeal to the media to help us, to amplify our voices, so that they will hear. If they are prepared to really help build a very strong economy there, then I think they will have to listen to us, because job creation is very, very important.
Indeed.
The public sector.
You indicated that you had already made these submissions or proposals to the finance ministry, but you are not confident that they're going to hear you out. You said they'll throw it out. Why is that?
Oh, yes, because this is the first time. Every year, before they come out, we submit, our proposals, and they don't consider it. There's not even a single year that they have, looked at what we brought to them. Okay, let us do. They will never. They think they know too much. That's where we are. Why we have arrived here, because they think that they are the technocrats or whatever, so they know everything. That's why they have gone to IMF. They told everybody in this country that IMF, we're not going there today, we're not going there tomorrow. As long as they remain in power, NPP remains in power, they're not going to go to IMF. The Deputy Minister, Finance Minister said it. The substantive himself confirmed it. We know of all these things. So what kind of behavior is it? Why should they be lying to us? And they continue to create an environment, even now. Salaries of workers are delayed. You are lucky if they give you a check, you go to bank, you are not very careful. Network, that's the excuse. Oh, network, net. The money is not there. Pensioners. The old men in my life have never seen it before. For these retirees to demonstrate, to picket. What kind of government is this? They will not listen. They think they know too much. But you see, nature will intervene by all means. But before that happens, we will appeal to the media, put aside their alliances or their affiliation with any political party, and make sure that we work together to save this country. Because once jobs are lost, and it is happening, if people lose their jobs, what happens? Even national security is threatened. You'll be in your home and you are not safe. Look at betting. This time, betting, gambling and all these things. And is it good for this country? See, so I think that the people in power now need some awakening. They need some awakening. And I think that you must help us to beat the drum. Very hard enough for them to listen.
Mr. Kumsen, I appreciate your time. Thank you so much for this.
Thank you.
Kumsen is the General Secretary of the Ghana Federation of Labour there. For getting to business, the President of the Ghana Traditional Council, His Royal Majesty King Taki Taiko Churu II, and the entire membership have noted with consternation the conduct of Charles Ni Kote, the head of the family of the late Na Dede Omaidu III, together with the family spokesperson Asafuache Kote Ga, including the children of the late Gamanye and the Gamanye Wiku, in the run-up to the funeral of the late Na Dede Omaidu. As members of the Manya family, they issued a statement saying they were made part of the Central Funeral Planning Committee as well as members of other subcommittees, but wrote letters challenging the authority of the Ghana Traditional Council and the Central Funeral Committee, and then withdrew their representation, only to turn around to go to court to create the unfortunate impression that the Ghana Traditional Council and the Central Funeral Planning Committee had hijacked the funeral planning, forsaking them, thereby securing an interim injunction order, which threw the funeral into confusion until the said interim injunction was set aside. This is a statement signed by His Royal Majesty King Taki Taiko Churu II, the Gamanche and President of the Ghana Traditional Council. And this is coming through addressing some of the issues that came up prior to the funeral of the late Gamanye. Let's get into business now, and Michael Obodo is standing by with the latest in business.
Hello there, welcome to the business segment here on Port Edition. My name is Michael Obodu. The headlines today: ahead of the 2024 budget, economist Dr. Saad Idrisu backs calls for review of some taxes based on latest KPMG report. We have the details coming up shortly. let's head straight into our first story now. As ahead of the 2024 budget presentation, businesses are calling for a review in some tax policies. Now, a recent study by auditing firm KPMG has revealed that the businesses want e-levy, COVID-19 levy, among others, reversed, describing them as amongst top 5 killer taxes. This report has the rest of the story. According to the findings of the report, a significant number of correspondents indicated that the cedi depreciation, high inflation, and rising interest rates were the major macroeconomic factors that have adversely impacted business operations in 2023. Respondents also detailed the multifaceted challenges they currently face, including power supply constraints, restricted access to financial resources, difficulties in retaining skilled labor, and supply chain disruptions. Regarding fiscal policies, the survey respondents felt that the current tax environment is adversely impacting their businesses. They have identified several taxes, including the e-levy, COVID-19 levy, import tariffs, petroleum levy, and the growth and sustainability levy, as areas where modifications could potentially alleviate the burdens faced by businesses. The top 3 recommendations aimed at augmenting tax revenues and fostering fiscal savings were an imperative broadening of the tax base, rationalization of government expenditure, and a comprehensive review of some of the government's flagship programs, such as the free senior high school. Concerning the top policy initiatives that the government's budget should prioritize in 2024, a significant number believe that the budget should prioritize policies that promote local businesses and export through initiatives like industrialization, agriculture development, and infrastructure improvement. Michael Obodu, 3 Business, Accra. Meanwhile, economist Dr. Saad Idrisu is supporting calls for the review of some tax policies in the 2024 budget. Speaking to 3 Business, he said government may not meet its growth target if it fails to heed to calls for a review of the e-levy, COVID-19 levy, among other taxes listed in the KPMG survey report.
Look at our financial sector. Government attention has to go there seriously. Government made a promise of the Ghana Financial Stability Fund, which is the $1.5 billion. As of July, government said it to set it up. We are in October. October is almost ended. There is no sign of such a fund to support the banks. How will the banks be able to extend credit facility to businesses? So that is why the private sector is crippling. That is why it's going down. And government will not be able to realize its macroeconomic objective. The growth target it has set is for Ghana. Government wouldn't be able to realize it without the needed stimulation of the private sector. That is the engine of growth of the economy. The private sector will be the ones to drive the economy towards government realization of those growth targets.
That was Dr. Saad Idrisu, who is an economist. Now, in a related development, President of the Ghana Union of Traders Associations, GUTA, Dr. Joseph Obeng, has expressed great concern over the impact of excessive taxation is having on the survival of businesses.
A major problem being the taxes, excessive and extortive taxes that we are being made to pay. The COVID levy came as a one-purpose tax. Just to help combat the COVID disease. Now, fortunately, COVID is no more there, so it needs to be out of the table. Then also, the special import levy is illegitimate. We are fighting for overall reduction of the many taxes that we have, especially when it comes to the VAT, how it is structured. It's not helping the growth of businesses. Why are we not coming down with our expenditure? Because if you bring you all the money and then you also double your expenditure and all that, the revenue that we get cannot sustain that of your expenditure. So we have to look at the expenditure also as a means to minimize this taxation.
So that was the president of the Ghana Union of Traders Associations, GUTA, Dr. Joseph Obeng, bringing an end to the business segment here on Hot Edition. For more business stories, please check out our website, 3news.com. My name is Michael Obodu. Up next is sports.
good evening and welcome to the sports segment here on the 3FM Hot Edition. My name is Bill Ishen, and we're going to start off from the Ballon d'Or because the ceremony is set to start at 6 p.m. tonight as we await the Best Player Award that is organized by France Football. Now, here are the rankings so far among the top 30 players in the world according to France Football. At 30th, we have Ruben Dias, we have Martin Odegaard and Randall Kolo Muani becoming 28th each. Nicolo Barella is 27th. Jamal Musiala is 26th. Josko Vardio is 25th. Bukayo Saka is 24th. Andre Onana has been ranked as 23rd. Kim Min-jae is 22nd. And Antoine Griezmann is currently 21st. Now, 20th is Lautaro Martinez. 19th is Harry Kane. 18th is Jude Bellingham. 17th is Kvaratskhelia. And 16th is Karim Benzema. Those are the rankings so far in the Ballon d'Or with respect to the countdown from number 30 to number 1. And an update right now is number 14. The 14th rank is Ilkay Gundogan. And 13th is Moroccan goalkeeper Yassine Bounou, who had some heroics in the 2022 World Cup in Qatar. So major congratulations to him for his performance there and for that rank. Now, to some other stories, a major military and police search is underway in Colombia for the father of Liverpool forward Luis Diaz, with authorities offering a £40,000 reward for information leading to his rescue. The player's mother was found in Barrancas on Saturday. Diaz has been given the chance to be away from the Liverpool team for a while to join his family. Now, head coach Jurgen Klopp explained this decision.
Last night late about it. Then we spoke to Lucho, want to go home, send people with him, have people there who take care. There's parts of families there as well, so that's why they want to be together. Absolutely understandable. We don't want to disturb in any way, not the important people there. We just want to support. It's clear we have to give the game an extra sense, and it was fighting for Lucho, and then the boys pulled out the shirt, and I was not 100% prepared for that. To be honest, it was really touching, but wonderful as well. So yeah, that's it.
It was really touching, the gesture by the Liverpool players for Luis Diaz. Now, in women's football, before I do go, the Black Queens trained earlier today ahead of the second leg of the 2024 Olympic Games qualifiers round 2 against Benin. They defeated them by 3-0 in the first leg. Now, 3 Sports understands that Princella Dubia did not take part in the session today due to a knock and is a major doubt for the fixture, which comes off tomorrow at the Accra Sports Stadium at 3:30 p.m. We will provide you further updates on that. That brings an end to the sports segment here on the 3FM Hot Edition. My name is Bill Ishen, and up next is Entertainment with Akofa.
Thank you, Bill, for the sports update. You're still tuned in to Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. It's time for the entertainment news segment powered by 3 Entertainment. My name is Akofa. Media and entertainment executive Baba Sadiq Abdullahi Abu has urged Ghanaian record labels and music executives to invest and be intentional about promoting their artists if they want to be seen, if they want to see them succeed on the global stage. Baba Sadiq was contributing to 3 Entertainment's X-Space conversation on the role of music executives in promoting Ghanaian music globally.
But today, you cannot afford not to have a strategy and be intentional. You've got to be intentional. You've got to roll it out. You've got to have a timeline for it. You've got to run it like a campaign. So previously in the industry where it was more or less about Chalemoku release, the fans will carry it and everything. That has been played out. Now you hear things like, what's the rollout strategy? You know, Charlie, what will be the rollout strategy? How do we move? Because every day there's something new. Every day there are 1,000 songs that are pushed out. There are a lot of emails that are pushed out. What is the strategy? What is the budget? You cannot. And that's why when somebody said that, oh, if you don't have money, no, let's begin to deconstruct that. That era where it was like, oh, Charlie, if you don't have money and you have an interest, guy, you will die. It's gone because it's gone. Sammy, Joe, today as part of a strategy, your TikTok strategy alone, you've got to have a budget. So the system gradually is whipping and shaping everybody. So you cannot afford to. If you do not have money, well, it can be on the grace or some inshallah vibes. But you've got to be intentional. People that have been intentional, we've seen the results. Of course, not everybody. But if you see any talents that have blown from Africa to the world in the ways, it was because they were intentional. Look, our African talents now are charging more money for endorsement and performances even than your American stars. They are filling bigger venues in the countries that American stars. Roddy Ricch cannot fill some of the places Burna Boy has filled.
That's fact. Not even in America. Not even
in America. He cannot. Not even within America. Because Atlantic and the team were very intentional about this is how we are going to go about it.
Well, away from that, media personality and artist manager Sammy Flex says Ghana is blessed with incredible music talents who unfortunately do not get the needed financial backing to promote their works. He called on the business executives and organizations to consider investing in Ghanaian talents to help them break into the global music market.
We are really lacking when it comes to the music executive thing. Because at this stage, if you come to our music space, you might not see more people coming out as music executives because the executive thing has to do with those who have the funds to actually start the whole engine. In Ghana, we seem to have more talent than the music executive thing. So because of that...
You mean investors? Or
yes, investors are part of it. Investors are part of it. Yeah, they are part of it. And I'm not sure at this time in Ghana, we have so many people doing it. That is why I would always advise that we don't put so much pressure on the few artists who are doing their independent things. Because when we do, we make them feel like they are not part of this whole process of doing music. Because as it stands now, when it comes to Ghana, if we are to do a rating of a percentage of our artists who are doing their music trade as independent artists and those who have maybe labels or executives behind them, we're going to have about 80 to 20. We're going to have about 80 to 20, yes. And maybe when you go outside of Ghana, you might not see them flourishing, but in Ghana, they are doing so well. So enough of the pressure from our artists, enough of the pressure from fans, media people, and all.
And finally, onto the international scene, U.S. actor Matthew Perry, best known for playing wisecracking Chandler Bing in the hit 90s TV sitcom Friends, has died at the age of 54. The actor was found dead at his home in Los Angeles, law enforcement sources told U.S. media. Now, Friends, which follow the fortunes of 6 young friends living in New York City, aired from 1994 until 2004. Its final episode was watched by 52.5 million in the US, making it the most watched TV episode of the 2000s. And that's how we end the entertainment news segment here on Hot Edition, powered by 3 Entertainment. My name is Akofa. Thank you for your time. The 3FM Drive continues. Keep your dial locked on 3FM 92.7.